Hey everybody, it's Jake from Rags to Races again. If you like the show, make sure to tell a friend, rate, subscribe, and review on iTunes, and find me on Stitcher. Coming soon will be the YouTube page. I'm also on Facebook /Rags to Races. I'm on Twitter @Rags to Races, Instagram @Rags2Races, and I'm blogging on Opposite Lock. You can find me there. Do a search for Rags to Races. Welcome back to the Rags to Races podcast. I'm your host, Jake, and here we are for part 3 on Autocross. I'm here with a very special guest tonight, Matt Covert of RacersHQ.com. How you doing, Matt?
You know what, Jake? I'm having such a good day. I'm so excited to be here to do this episode with you, man.
Same here, same here. Been looking forward to this for a while. So why don't you start off, tell everyone how you got into motorsports.
Let me start off with something else real quick, okay? I listened to, because I know you recently had, I think was it Rich Walke on your episode 5, was it?
Yeah, it's Rich. That's the guy whose car I crew on his car, actually.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, I listened to that episode earlier in the week, and I have just been all about it all week long. There is so much good value there about bootstrapping a race team. Great episode, man.
Oh yeah, he's so much fun to talk to, and the stories he was telling on the show were stuff I hadn't even heard yet. And I've been working with him for 2 seasons now.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That made my week. If you haven't listened to that yet and you're listening to this, you need to go listen to episode 5 of Jake's podcast. It's awesome. All right, so yeah, let me just give you my little spiel here about how I got into motorsport. I kind of have a much different entry than a lot of other people do. I started my performance driving career as a professional stunt driver for film, television, and live entertainment. And it's been a kind of a slow process for, transitioning from one to the other because they're both very different worlds. But I'll tell you, man, this racing thing and this website that I've got going on now, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. I'm so excited about everything that's happening.
That's awesome. So stunt car driving, how did you get into that?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I was in high school at the time. It was my last year in high school, and I had been accepted to go to the Universal Technical Institute. I think it's Mooresville, North Carolina, right? And I wanted to build NASCAR engines because I love wrenching on stuff. I knew that after that I was going to have a huge amount of college debt. And I decided that I wanted to go do something that was really fun, something I've always been interested in, which is, stunt driving. So I ended up going to the Drivers East High Performance Driving School in Wall, New Jersey. And this is such a cool place to learn stunt driving. The instructors, I believe, still are Mike Burke, Roy Farfel, and Kevin Rogers. And these are the guys who are at the top of the film industry food chain here on the East Coast. They're mostly out of New York. At the time, they had just got done, filming like Bourne Ultimatum and the Spider-Man 3 and like Indiana Jones, all these amazing feature films that these are the ones you go to the theater to watch, So the guys definitely know what they're doing. I spent 2 days down there with them, end of the airport runway that they rent for their school. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to college. This is what I want to do with my life. It was just night and day. I knew this was it. So I kind of spent the next, year or so just transitioning into the industry. As soon as I got home, I knew that the first thing I needed to do was get a private practice space so that I could take what I learned, build on it, develop consistency, and become the best in my region. So I ended up getting several local sponsors. I bought a car specifically to learn stunts and become better at it. I made a demo reel, which I passed around. Got my first job as a stunt driver on the History Channel. And from there, it's really just not really what you know, but who you know. So networking is a huge, huge factor in any type of business endeavor. It's the same with maybe even more so in film. So I went to the West Coast after that. I had the privilege of training under Steve Buckley, who was one of the original stunt drivers on the Dukes of Hazzard TV show, and that is the show that really got me interested in driving. You know, when I was younger, you watch the show, the cars are going sideways. Sometimes you're like, oh, why is that rear wheel like all spinny, or why is it locked up? You know, so you think about it, and then you say, okay, I gotta try this. So you pull that classic maneuver, you snake your mom's car in the middle of the night during a snowstorm, and you go play around in the parking lot, and that's kind of how it got me hooked. So working with Steve Buckley was a huge accolade for me, absolutely incredible. So from there, it was just working in a lot of independent film. I was never a Hollywood A-lister, but I did really well in the independent scene here in kind of the Northeast area, Boston mostly, a little bit in Rhode Island. So that's kind of how my stunt career has come and gone.
Wow, that's cool. It's funny you said Dukes of Hazzard, because I'll tell you what, that show and Knight Rider were the two shows growing up watching that got me into cars like nobody's business. I couldn't even say Dukes of Hazzard, but I knew I wanted to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what, man. I've got all of them on DVD. I mean, they're always my go-to when I want to watch something fun.
You were stunt car driving, and you kind of faded out from that, from what you were saying when we were talking before, and you're trying to go more toward into actual performance driving and becoming a race car driver. What got you out of stunt car driving and into motorsports?
Yeah, great question. Actually, I get that sometimes. People are like, wait, why did you stop doing that? That sounds really awesome. And it's true. It's fun. Like, you show up on the film set, and, sometimes I was even the stunt coordinator, so I was really in charge of a lot of big things here.
Wow.
And it just so happened that another 2 stunt driving schools in the Northeast kind of opened up, and now the market was suddenly flooded. And I certainly don't blame the schools. I mean, as businesses, they found great weaknesses in the market, and they made a lot of money, and good for them. So I don't hold them responsible, but now there's a lot of people around here who can do all the entry-level jobs, and they're undercutting everyone else. And, what used to be a $300 an hour job is like $100 a day, and you got to drive 2 states over. So the money kind of went away, and my ambition with it. And at one point, I was like, because I worked at my last summer, full time in stunts. I was looking at my situation. I literally had less than $1 in the bank, and I was like, this cannot keep going. So that's kind of how my brand started. I wanted to create something that would help amateur racers get to where they want to go.
That's awesome. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about your brand and racershq.com?
Sure, yeah, absolutely, man. There's so much going on right now. It's all very exciting. So basically the website is completely designed for the aspiring racing driver. And what I mean by that is, when I was getting into performance driving and transitioning into racing, there was really nowhere to go where you could learn things like slip angles or yaw angles, or how to figure out your coefficients of frictions on your tire, or why applying the brakes over a slightly longer elapsed time going into a braking zone would give you more traction through the next corner. Okay, stuff like that. And these are all things that I'm not making any of this stuff up, but I'm presenting all this information that has been around for a while, deep in these beautiful old textbooks that I love. I love Carol Smith and Mark Donohue and Niki Lauda. And so what I've done is I've just learned all these things myself over the past several years as a high-performance driver, and now they're all on the website, and they're very easily consumable. There's a lot of video. There's a lot of quick-hitting articles that tell you just what you need to know. We've got the podcast now. This is something that's been huge in the past 3 or 4 weeks now. Racers HQ is launching a digital magazine specifically for the aspiring racer. I've been interviewing professional racing drivers, and they're giving me their insight on what you should be doing early in your amateur career. I've got the top level motorsport fitness guys. Guys who used to train all the Roger Penske drivers are going to be writing in the Racers HQ magazine. So it's a very big deal. There's a lot going on. But if you have any aspirations to become someone in the racing world, there is so much you need to learn, and this website is where you can go to get it.
And I can attest to that. I first heard Matt a couple weeks ago. I had the guys on from 10 Tenths, and I was listening to their show, and Matt was on their show. And I did something I've never done before in my life. I actually was in my car. I was able to find a place to park. I was in between appointments for work, so I was sitting in a parking lot listening to it, and I said, I got to reach out to this guy, because what he's got going on is absolutely amazing. I paused the episode, I got out my phone, and I shot him an email, and within I'd say less than 2 hours, he was already getting back to me, and we had this back and forth going. He's got something great. Even for the aspiring, even the hobbyist, you can learn so much from this website, and it's all free. I can't stress it enough. If you want to get involved in racing and motorsports, definitely check out the website. Check out racershq.com. The resources and the information there is invaluable.
Oh, well, those are some really, really powerful words, Jake. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. Now, I know you're working primarily on autocross right now, which is kind of why I had you come on this episode to talk about autocross. Why autocross to start out with over doing like track days or any other type of racing?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of autocross. I absolutely love it. It is absolutely the best place to start your racing career or your hobby or whatever it is you want to do, okay? The comparison between, well, let's use your comparison between autocross and track days, okay? Autocross is absurdly cheap to get into, all right? And here are the benefits of autocross over track days. Entry fees are super low. There's a lot more autocross events happening around you than you know about. You don't have to travel to that raceway, wherever that is, okay? Especially if you're new. Autocross races happen in parking lots, right? So if you make a mistake, mess up, and you're trying to find the upper limit of the car, and you find it, and you pass it, and you spin out, you hit a cone, you're in the middle of the parking lot. It's no big deal. The learning environment is amazing in autocross, all right? And it's absurdly competitive, but there's no money moving around the industry as far as winnings go. And that being the case, there is zero animosity in the sport. So you can, you can walk up to someone, walk up to the fastest guy and say, "Hey, can you help me out? Would you go for a ride with me?" And he'll be like, "Absolutely, I will." People are just really nice and they want to help each other out, so that's really cool. And if you really want to compete on a big level, autocross goes all the way up to the national level. I think the Solo Nats just happened a couple weeks ago, so it's all very fresh in everyone's minds. Man, I'll tell you what, some of the best drivers in the country are autocrossers, man.
Absolutely, and it is definitely something you can use if you do aspire to go to bigger and better things. I know you've brought up this name multiple times on your show and on your website, but if you're curious about what you can do with autocross and where you can go, look up the name Randy Pobst.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Randy Pobst. Yeah, he got to start in autocross, and he got multiple national championships, and then he moved into road racing, and he's been pretty much everywhere. He raced in the Pirelli World Challenge. I know he's a huge Pikes Peak racer, and I know I think he's consulting for a race team now around Colorado. So he's got a lot going on. Started in autocross, man.
Yeah, not to mention working for the big magazines and write-ups for them, and he's got YouTube episodes up on, for a show on YouTube. He's been on TV comparing cars and contrasting and competing against other types of racers just to see who's got the faster line, this, that, and the other. But he's gone from literally being a poor college kid who wanted to do something with racing and started autocrossing to being in some of the upper echelons of road racing as we know it today here in the States.
Yeah, absolutely, man. His opportunities are just running rampant right now. I'm so excited for him. What a cool story he's got. Look him up, Randy Pobst.
With your website, is it really centered around autocross, or can people who want to go road racing or global rallycross, anything like that, can they learn from what you've got on your website?
Yeah, absolutely. We like autocross because it's a great place to start and get your feet wet and learn the basic techniques, okay? But once you learn the basics, you can apply them anywhere that you go, So if you're at that track day, I'll tell you what, man. This is I was talking to a 20-year autocross veteran the other day, and he was adamant about this, and I completely agree with him. He said that if you take a good autocrosser, and put him on a road course, he's going to be very fast. But if you take a road racer, put him on an autocross course, he's not going to know what to do. Okay, so it makes sense to get your basics down before you move up to something bigger. When it gets more complicated, right? Autocross is really cool because once you learn, if you can be fast going slow in a slow car in a parking lot, yeah, that's what you need to learn to understand, to be fast in a fast car in a fast situation.
And I agree with you there. I said it when I was talking to the guys from 10 I said, you can go and jump into that higher horsepower car, that faster car, that that built Corvette when you've got a guy in a little, your basic, even Chevy HHR is a car I bring up a lot. That's what my co-host Brooks drives right now. And you could go up against him. You've got this 450 horsepower Corvette. The thing is, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know the basics, you're just going to crash that much faster in the Corvette than you would in the HHR.
I completely agree, you know, and I mean, it's not like we're making this stuff up. You know, I think Rich on your episode the other day said the same thing. He used to drive those little British cars, yeah. And a couple weeks ago, I connected with a Red Bull Global Rallycross driver, Patrick Sandell, and he said the same thing. He said, hey, man, the longer you can stay in a low-powered car, the better you'll be as a driver throughout your career, because you don't have the power to pull yourself out of those mistakes you make, you know? So if you make a mistake in a slow car, a momentum car, it takes forever to make up for that mistake because the engine's so tiny, it just can't get you back on track, man.
Yeah, that's true, and I was thinking of the alternative there too, because if you're in a lower powered car, even if you make a mistake, you still got the time to correct before you end up in a wall, or like me on my first track day, in a guardrail.
Oh no, that sounds horrible.
So I don't know if I've told the full story before on the show, but I'll kind of go over it again. So my very first track day, I had a number of different performance cars over the years. You know, from my first Camaro that I had when I was in the Army. When I lived in Germany, I had a little Escort convertible, something they never offered here in the States. It was a Euro spec Ford Escort, and it had the high performance suspension kit, so it had better brakes. It sat about 3 inches off the ground. It was a blast. It was slow as all get out, but it was fun, you know. But I finally got back to the States. I had my Mustang, and I decided I had my Mustang, and I had a daily driver, and it was just getting too expensive for me at the time to have both cars. So I decided I needed one car to do everything. Living in the Midwest, I bought myself a brand new WRX, 2006 WRX. I was just done with the break-in period. I had been autocrossing. I hadn't autocrossed that car yet, and I was working with a guy who did a lot of track days with NASA. They call it HPDE, High Performance Driving Experience, where you can learn how to drive on a racetrack. And I was out there, and it was my first day ever. I was going into my third or fourth track session of the day. It was a 20-minute session, and my instructor's nowhere to be found. Well, I had been doing pretty good all day. The instructor was giving me some good pointers, and I knew at the track I was at, turn 1 and turn 2 of the track, I was screwing up. It was a big, hard horseshoe 180-degree turn, and I was constantly adjusting the wheel, and he basically said, if you're doing it right, you're going to turn the wheel in, and you're just going to hold it, and the car will do what it needs to get through the corner. Well, since my instructor hadn't shown up, and we're about 8 to 10 minutes into this track session, one of the track workers just walks up to me, hey, you think you can handle it out there by yourself? Well, I'm a guy. I'm an Army vet. Oh yeah, of course I can. I know what I'm doing. I can do this. Ego got the best of me, and I got about 3 laps, and I finally nailed turn 1 and 2. Awesome. I was so stoked, but I went back to what I had been doing all day after turn 1 and turn 2, flooring it, run it through second gear, shift to third gear, floor it, and hit turn 3, which is a little kink to the left. Not thinking about the fact that now that I had nailed turn 1 and turn 2, I was carrying probably another 10 miles an hour into turn 3. And earlier in the day, even with my screw-ups, my instructor was saying, turn 3, don't go any faster through. Period. You are at the absolute limit. You're 10/10ths in turn 3. Well, I didn't think about that. I just went with what I had been doing because I knew I was nailing turn 3. I went into it that much faster. The back end broke loose on me because I hit a slight early apex, which means, for those of you who don't understand, I came into the center of the corner on the inside line earlier than I should have, and the back end came loose. The car slid to the outside of the track, and there was a rumble strip out there. But the way the track was set up, a bunch of people coming and nailing that corner dug all the dirt up from the side of the rumble strip. So it was a curb, a concrete curb. The sidewall of my tire hit it, which then sent me in the other direction. The back end swung back around like a pendulum. I couldn't correct it fast enough, and I ended up kissing a guardrail at about 95 miles an hour sideways in my brand new car.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. That's a very exciting story, but a very sad one, man. I'm glad you didn't get hurt though. That's cool.
Oh, you and me both. And it ended up, thank God it was all cosmetic damage. I scraped some paint off the back bumper cover, I put a couple dents in the exhaust tip, and I shattered the plastic on the tail light.
Oh, that's pretty lucky, man, for the speed you were going though.
Yeah, well, it was fighting, overcorrecting the oversteer. I spun it back and forth a couple times before coming into the guardrail. And, one of those things, I think you had posted something on your Instagram where it said, when you're driving a car, if you're in trouble in a car and you look at where you're going, that's where you're going to go. That's exactly what I did. I was so scared. I saw that guardrail coming up at me, and I was staring at that guardrail. My hands reacted to what I was looking at, and I ended up hitting the guardrail. I probably would have been better off had I just been staring straight ahead at the road and the track. I may have been able to pull it off, but lesson learned, and the very hard and expensive way.
Yeah.
Going back to the website here and racershq.com, is it something that only beginners are going to find stuff for, or can people who have been racing for years or autocrossing and maybe even at the national level autocross, can they still learn from it?
No, man, there's something on there for absolutely everybody, and I've done, I've tried really hard to put all the basic stuff on there as well in both written form and in video form as well. Yeah, if you go to like even like a regional or a divisional autocross event, and you walk up to one of the guys and say, hey, how can two drivers go through the same corner and have the same average corner speed, but one of them come out of the corner faster? He's not going to know what that is. If you ask him about the traction circle and why Mark Donohue was faster with his new method of trading forces as he drove around corners, as opposed to the classic European style of driving, they're not going to know what that is. And that's all stuff that you really have to develop an understanding about to be great in a race car.
Yeah. It's funny you're talking about, traction circles and whatnot, and I'm not going to go too in depth on that. I will say the easiest way to explain that, yes, you're in a car, you've got four tires. I've also ridden motorcycles in my day. And if you think about a car like riding a motorcycle and that balance that you have to have on a motorcycle when you're going into corners, you can't lean into a corner, slam on the brakes because you're going to upset the balance of the bike. If you think about that when you're behind the wheel, that's going to help you in the long run as well. You got to think of everything as balance. You can't have too much weight in the front, too much weight in the rear, too much weight to one side or another. Just like on a motorcycle, when you're in a car, you can use that to your advantage.
Man, that's a great analogy. I've never heard anybody say that before, but as you're saying it, I was like, oh my gosh, that is a perfect description. To go fast, you really have to be good at managing the weight transfer of the vehicle. So, like, for example, let's talk about a braking zone for a second. So if you're going into the braking zone and you get to the spot you need to brake and you stomp on the brakes really hard, really fast, then you're going to shift a lot of the car's weight to the front of the vehicle. All right. Now, if the same driver comes up and applies the brakes slightly slower, maybe a little smoother, to the same amount of braking force, right? But if he does that, then he's actually going to transfer less weight to the front. There'll be more weight over the rear, and that means more overall traction as you enter the corner. It's all about being able to manage where the weight is on the car. Great motorcycle analogy, man. I love that.
And you know what? From riding, once I started doing more performance driving, more autocrossing, that kind of just came to mind, and I really once I started utilizing my thoughts as a motorcycle rider when I'm behind the wheel of a car in an autocross or on a track day, it actually improved my times quite a bit.
That's so interesting, man. I've never heard anyone talk about that before. That's very cool. I'm going to quote you on that at some point.
Oh, well, thank you. Like I was saying before, with racershq.com and the website, you've got a lot of free stuff. Pretty much everything on there is free. Frankly, right now, everything is free. Do you have any plans on charging like membership fees or anything for the website?
Well, here's the thing about the website, man. Everything on the website is free, and I want pretty much everything on the website to always be free. And that was part of my business strategy. Like, I'm very open and transparent about, what I'm doing as far as, business or networking or all this other stuff. And, I mean, here it is. I'm only 14 months into the brand. And man, I have a really awesome following because I've been giving away all this free stuff. It doesn't make sense all the time, but it truly does work this way. The more you give away, the more money potential you'll make, okay? The magazine, which is coming out, is not going to be free, right? But so you can always go on the website. There will always be new free things coming out on the website as well. So, if you just want to be that casual kind of, a motorsports, learning kind of situation, yeah, always go to the website. There's always stuff on there for you. If you want to take it a little more seriously, we've got the podcast, which is also free. The magazine, that's really the crown jewel here if you want to be serious. But yeah, the website's free, and I'm really excited about that. I love giving away all this awesome content.
That's so awesome, and thank you again for putting that out there, because I'll tell you what, even I'm by no means a professional. I'll admit to that right off the bat. There are many people out there quite a bit faster than me. So any information I can gather that might help me, even if it's tenths or hundredths of a second that I might be able to gain either on the autocross course or when I get my Lemons car, I'm going to use that to my advantage. And there is so much on your website that's completely free. The podcast, I highly recommend if you want to be serious about racing and autocrossing. Definitely give it a listen. He just did one not that long ago. His podcasts are short, but the amount of information you get from them is invaluable. He did one podcast on tire pressures, and you will learn so much. And the whole time I'm listening to this, I'm just thinking, yes, it took me 3 years to figure this out. And when I finally did, I was actually able to gain quite a bit of time, and I won my first autocross event because I understood tire pressures and how to adjust the tire pressures in my all-wheel drive car that actually helped me be faster on the autocross course.
Yeah, no, if you want to listen to that, it's totally free. And I think that's episode 12.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember which one it was exactly, but it was a very good episode, and all of them actually have been very good. A lot of good information.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, it was episode 12. It's on iTunes. It's on Stitcher. It's on the website. I mean, you can pretty much get it anywhere.
Speaking of autocross here, what are some good tips you got for people who are just starting out or thinking about getting started or wanting to give it a try?
Oh, man, I could talk about this all day. I love this stuff. That's a great question. Yeah. So a lot of Racers HQ followers are very, very new, right? So I mean, I'm always talking about this with other people, and I think one of the best things you need to understand if you're just starting racing is you're not going to win anything for a while, and you just have to accept that. A lot of people show up, and a lot of people think that they're just naturally good drivers. Oh man, let me tell you a quick story. Okay, so last year I was autocrossing somewhere in southern Maine. And there's this new guy, had never done it before, and I love helping people out, man. I love like introducing myself, meeting other people, whatever. So I walk up and say, "Hey, man, I'm Matt. Can I go for a ride with you? I'd love to give you some pointers or whatever." And he goes, but he turned to me and he goes, "Oh no, that's okay. I don't have a really great driver." And so as you can imagine, this poor guy, he couldn't get it together. He was, I don't know, 7 or 8 seconds slower than some of the fast guys. And that's a huge amount of time to make up. So if you're new, okay, you're not going to win anything right off the bat. Me as a professional stunt driver, I absolutely know what I'm doing behind the wheel of a vehicle. But when I got into racing, I showed up to my first event and I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to wipe the floor with these guys. I did not do very well because stunt driving and racing are completely opposites. Okay, so it might even be easier for you to learn racing, easier than it was for me to learn racing, because I didn't have to undo this whole other world of driving that I had been into. So once you get there and realize that it's a long process, you need to start taking advantage of the people who know what they're doing. Even now, okay, I mean, I've won my first autocross championship, and even now, when I go racing somewhere, there's always somebody faster than you. You go up to that guy, say, "Hey, I'm this person. Would you mind giving me some pointers? Go for a ride with me." Or even better yet, say, "Hey, would you mind taking my car? I'll give up one run in the afternoon so that you can make it, and I'll run my data acquisition system, and I want to see how you do in the car." If the guy's faster, then shoot, you've recorded all of his data. You can look at it and say, oh, okay, the car can go faster here, here, and here, okay? And even if you don't have that data information, take advantage of the people who know what they're doing. And when you start autocrossing, a lot of people get thrown into a novice class where the instructors are very good about going with you and seeing how you do, okay? But even me, I'm like 6-8 years into my performance driving career now, and I'm still taking instructors for ride-alongs with me. After you get out of the novice class, that doesn't mean you can't stop seeking instructors. You have to have those people. They already know what you want to know. They're faster than you. Let them tell you what to do next.
That's so true. And a little pointer too, when you do have instructors in the car, while you're going to be tempted to sit there and stare out the windows and watch what's going on outside of you, and that does help a little bit, you're better suited watching their hands and their feet. And
I 100% agree with that. Absolutely.
Use your butt dyno too, if you don't have a data acquisition system. Pay attention to how the car feels, how they're applying the brakes, how they're applying the throttle, if they're doing any shifting. Pay attention to everything you can. When I instructed at an autocross school a few years ago, the one day we had like mini courses, and my two students gave me a chance to drive their cars to show them what to do. And I told them, don't watch out the windshield. Pay attention to what my hands and feet are doing so you can see how I'm doing it. You can feel and see and hear what's going on around you. You know the course. You don't need to worry about where we're at on the course, where the cones are. Just see how I'm reacting, see what I'm doing with my hands and feet, and that will help you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I can attest to that. My first time that I was on a speedway, I was running whatever the time was. It was way off the pace of everyone else, okay? But I had someone else drive my car, and I watched what they were doing, and I could feel what the car was capable of using that butt dyno, while someone else is driving. And over the course of the day, I ended up taking like 5 seconds off my lap. 5 whole seconds. That's insane. You don't understand what your car is capable of until someone who is amazing is driving it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, while we're on the subject of autocrossing and getting started, a lot of us out there don't have a ton of money to put into autocross. And something very unique to your website, racershq.com, is the sponsorship program for autocrossers. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely, I do. This is one of the funnest things I get to do because I'm in a position now where I can help some of the other grassroots guys, with their racing endeavors. It's all really awesome. So I can tell you this. There are probably a dozen companies out there offering quote-unquote autocross sponsorships, okay? But they're offering discounts for things you don't need to buy. They're offering you weird point systems for weird things, all kinds of crazy stuff, okay? They're not actually helping you out, okay? And people always get that glassy-eyed look in their, in their eyes, whatever, when they hear the word sponsorship. But you really have to break that down and understand that not everyone is out to help you. They're just trying to get you to buy their stuff. My website has the only real sponsorship program out there for autocross. I'm so excited about doing this. So basically what happens is I am offering money for autocrossing. I want you to drive on my race team, all right? And there's an application process. I don't give discounts. I don't give credits. I don't give cash, okay, for driving on the team. I want my name on the side of your car, all right? So right now, and the program is still open. I don't know when this episode is coming out, but if it's any time in the next like 3 or 4 weeks, the program will still be open. So you can go to racershq.com/sponsorship. And submit your information there, and you can apply to get this, and it's $300 cash for the season. So I will give you $300 and all the vinyls that need to go in your car for this program. Okay, I can't help everyone because I get. Oh, you can probably imagine. If you dangle money, in front of someone, to do what they love, people are going to come out of the woodwork. So there are a lot of people applying. I love meeting new people. I love talking to them. So make sure you go and apply if you want some real financial help for the next autocross season, man.
Yeah, that is unheard of, and God knows, had this been around when I started autocrossing back in 2001, 2002. I would have been all over this because back then it was, hey, I have enough money to afford to go to one autocross on my street all-season tires this year. That's going to be great. But if I had that kind of money, I'd have been doing a season for points, and I would have bought a good set of tires for my car because that's just unbelievable, and it's so awesome to see somebody doing this.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, and I know like $300 sounds like, not very much, a drop in the bucket, but that's almost a set of tires, man. That's all your entry fees for the season. That's a lot of gas money. I mean, this is a really helpful thing, and I'll tell you what, the response I've gotten about this has been absolutely amazing. I'm so excited to play that role and help people out.
Well, and you and me talked about this via email. You'll have one less person seeing how I'm going road racing and chump car and lemons racing, endurance racing with my car. So I can't apply. Otherwise, if I was strictly autocross this next year, I'd be all over this. I'll tell you what, in lieu of that, I did buy some stickers, and once they're put on the car, you're going to get some pictures for Instagram for yourself.
Oh man, that is so cool of you, Jake. Thank you for doing that for me and my brand. I really appreciate that. I've got a huge smile on right now. You can probably hear it. That makes me so happy.
Oh, I'm glad to help, man. I'm glad to help. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. On your website, on your podcast, a lot of the stuff you write about, you talk about fitness when it comes to motorsports. I completely agree with you. However, I haven't been the best at it myself. I'm a strong believer in it. I'm really intimidated. I'm not a gym rat by any means. Even when I was in the Army, I wasn't big on going to the gym or lifting weights. I did when I was deployed, but that was only because that was really all there was for me to do there. I'm not excited about it. It doesn't really get me pumped up to go to the gym. I've had gym memberships and just never used them. Are there things people can do at home to help with fitness when it comes to motorsports? Because I do realize how important it is, and I do want to get more fit, and I need to lose about 20 pounds myself just so I'm back to where I was at when I was in the Army.
Man, let's talk about it. I was hoping we were going to go here on this episode into fitness, man. Oh, I love this stuff. Right, so the problem with fitness, regardless if it's motorsport or any other sub-niche or whatever, okay? I think there's probably more crowded noise on the internet about fitness than any other topic. There is so much crap out there and so much contradictory information that once you read, 2 or 3 articles, you've suddenly read conflicting things, and now you're in information overload. And when people are in information overload, they tend to do nothing. And that's a problem because you're never going to accomplish anything, all right? So let me try and clear up some of these things about fitness and what we can be doing here, okay? So the first things first, I'm not really a gym rat either. And there is a lot of amazing things you can do from your own home if you want to be talking about fitness. And it was funny, I actually caught some flack from somebody who claimed to be some fitness person or whatever about the things that I say about fitness on my podcast or the website, which I don't really understand because I don't make up any information. I'm simply pointing people toward information that already exists and works for me. So as a race car driver, when I want to go faster, I consult experts, people who are better than me. And it's the same with fitness, So if I want to accomplish something in the fitness world, I go to an expert, okay? And one person I've gone to a lot, not personally, but through his fitness programs, is Sean T from Beachbody and his Insanity programs, man. That is the best place to start. So let me break it down and make it really simple for everybody. If you are a little bit overweight and you need to, drop some pounds or whatever, and you're kind of like starting your fitness program over again, I would highly recommend Sean T's Focus T25 home workout program. I'm not an affiliate for Beachbody. I've just used all their products, and they're amazing. If you want to see what I'm doing or my results, I just actually updated this the other day. You can go to racershq.com/fitness, personal pictures of me, programs I've done, how I got from here to there, okay? So that's what I would recommend if you're just getting started and trying to get back into it, is T25. It's amazing. Okay, if you are a little bit more fit and you want to take the jump to the next level, you got to get into the Insanity program, man. I'll tell you what, if you can get through an Insanity workout, you're ready, okay? If you can't do an hour straight of high-intensity interval training, then you're not ready yet, all right? So I highly recommend using Insanity as kind of a benchmark. And there's pictures of me before and after doing Insanity up on the website at the link that I mentioned earlier. You can see how it works, all right? Beyond that, I just got done doing The Asylum, again, by Sean T. That is like the ultimate sports performance workout. That is probably the best workout for fitness and endurance that you can get over the counter, right? And the greatest thing about all these programs is that once you get going, you really need to start thinking about like the food and intake diet aspect of it. That's probably the most confusing thing on the internet as far as fitness goes is the eating. What do I do? How do I eat? How much of this? Whatever. And that's where people fail. I always tell people, if you're going to the gym like 6 days a week and you're working really hard there, but you're not focusing on your food intake, stop going to the gym because you're completely wasting your time, okay? 90% of real fitness is how hard you work on your food intake, and anyone can go to the gym and lift weights. That's 10%, okay? But if you want to be really fit, generate endurance, then you have to get into these programs, all right? And it's very cool. You buy one of these Beachbody programs, you get everything you need to do the physical work, and everything is included about what you need to do for food, including really simple recipes, and they break them down into macronutrients and all kinds of really great things. That's where you need to start if you're not doing fitness right now. You don't want to go to the gym and lift heavy weights and do 3 sets of 8 like everyone else is doing. No, you don't need big muscle, okay? If you want to be a successful racing driver, you need endurance muscle, which you get from doing high-intensity interval training.
Thank you so much. That's going to be a big help for me. And you kind of answered my next question. I was going to talk about diet stuff, and you brought up macronutrients. Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I'm a little bit new to this whole thing, so it would have definitely helped me. So I'm sure it could help some of my listeners out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's talk about macronutrients for a second. And these are the parts that get people a little confused and turn them away from doing what they should be doing for the fitness program as far as food goes. Okay, so macronutrients, they're not that complicated. I promise if I can learn it, then so can you. It's not that big a deal, okay? Macronutrients are fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. There's only 3 of them, okay? So proteins are what your body needs to build muscle, all right? Carbohydrates are energy that your body needs to build that muscle, all right? And fats are very healthy in various other ways for building muscle as well, okay? So when someone says, oh, you need to go on a low-carb diet, well, that's ridiculous, okay? Low-carb diets were in the 90s. That was a fad. It's out now. Those are ridiculous, okay? You need carbohydrates to be energized, and your body needs that energy to use protein to build muscle, okay? And actually, we connected on this a couple weeks ago, and I shared with you a sample of one of the meal plans that I custom made for myself, and I have everything listed out that I eat in a day. I have everything listed out as far as calories, and macronutrients are measured in grams, and I have those all broken down as well. So I don't know if you want to share that with everybody. You're certainly welcome to. It kind of helps to see it on paper a little bit, but it's not that complicated. If you're getting into a fitness program like the Beachbody stuff, all that stuff is taken care of for you in the little food booklet that comes with it.
Oh, no, this is definitely going to be shared. I'm going to be releasing this episode this upcoming Sunday. So when I do release the episode, that's going to be going up on all my social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to share with everybody. So it'll be there for you if you are interested in learning a little bit more about this stuff. I myself am going to be using it a lot more just to kind of help get back into the shape that I need to. Because I know you said you had somebody kind of bashing you for talking about fitness and whatnot. People tend to forget there's a reason it's called motor sport. There is a sport and an athletic side to it. It's not just sitting in a car. And I contest people almost once every 6 months or so. I'll have one of my friends from high school or one of my buddies saying, I don't get how they can call NASCAR, or I don't get how they can call race car drivers athletes. They sit in a car. That's not an athlete. And then I kind of break it down to them that, well, it's not sitting in your car on the freeway, even if you're doing 110 miles an hour and weaving in and out of traffic like an idiot. That's still not what racing is. You're sitting in a nice, comfortable, cushy car with air conditioning on, power steering, power brakes. You're probably got an automatic transmission. There's nothing to that. It's not the same as motorsport. And when I do talk fitness here and when I do talk diet, I'm doing that because when you want to jump to that next level, when you want to go semi-pro, when you want to go pro, these are things you have to think about. The guys on the upper top echelons of motorsport, when I'm talking NASCAR, Formula One, they have, each driver has their own dietitian, their own personal trainer. And you look at the Formula One drivers out there, they go and do the Ironman. They do triathlons. They run marathons for fun. And they're competitive. They're still ranking in the top 10 in any of those type of races that they get involved with. It is very serious. It will help you, especially when it comes to stuff like what I want to do with endurance racing. Sitting in a race car with no power steering, no air conditioning, a cool suit, which will probably work for the first hour of a session, and then that ice water is now turned into lukewarm water, it's not going to help you. You need to be prepared. And if you really do want to be competitive, and let's face it, we all want to be competitive. Yes, there's the fun aspect in getting out there and doing it, but you want to be competitive. You still want to be run at the top of your limits. And if you're not focusing on fitness or focusing on your diet and keeping yourself completely 100% mentally and physically capable of doing it, you're never going to be at that top echelon, even for yourself and going off your own, by your own standards.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I always say if you're not prepared for anything, you're not prepared at all. Perfect example. I recently had the opportunity to drive a shifter cart, and that came out of nowhere. I had no time to prepare for that, right? And I am extremely fit. I can push very hard for about an hour, which is longer than a Pirelli World Challenge race. Okay, and even in the condition that I'm in, man, it was a real challenge to drive that shifter cart. Just to hold my head up around some of the corners was insane. 3Gs. If you've never experienced 3Gs, you have absolutely no idea what's happening. And I had this quote for something else I was working on earlier in the day. If you study motorsport, you've probably heard of Carroll Smith. He's got a great series of books from the 80s and 90s, right? This guy is a world class, just absolute amazing crew chief, race car designer, tuner, okay? And he's worked with enough drivers to know this, okay? This is what he says in his book. He says, if a driver, any driver, is not intelligent enough to understand the need for physical conditioning and dedicated enough to get himself into shape and maintain himself there, I'm not going to waste my time on him. That's pretty powerful stuff. And this is the thing about fitness too, man. If you're fit, awesome. You can race the car. You can last a really long time physically, okay? But fitness is something else for you that people don't often think about, and that is it gives you a huge first impression capital, okay? Here's a nasty truth about the world we live in. People judge you. Get over it and use it to your advantage. So if someone walks up to you and you're fit, you look like you're ready for anything, man, that is all positive response inside that person's head. So if you want to make first impressions to the max wherever you go, you need to look like you're fit and be fit.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the pictures you've posted on the website of I forget who it was. Tony Stewart was one of them, and who was the other guy?
And Mark Martin.
Yeah, that's it. Mark Martin. 2 NASCAR drivers. Everybody knows both those names, but if you didn't know who they were, you don't know what they look like. Go look at a picture of the two of them side by side. Who would you pick to drive for your car, for your team?
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, just here's an example. If someone walked up to me, if both of those guys walked up to me and they had no experience and I had no idea who they were, right? Tony Stewart, he looks kind of slovenly. He's overweight. He obviously doesn't take care of himself. So I'm going to look at him and say, well, he doesn't take care of himself. Why would he take care of my brand? I don't want to do business with this guy. If that was the only thing I knew about him, okay? Mark Martin, on the other hand, this guy is ripped. He's in his late 50s. Amazing six-pack, 0 body fat. Well, no, he's probably like 9-10% body fat because that would be detrimental. Yeah. But 9-10% body fat, this guy obviously takes himself seriously, and so he can take my brand seriously.
And, don't get me wrong, anybody can get involved in motorsport at a hobbyist level, and don't take that the wrong way. If you are, like me, out of shape, you don't need to feel like you need to rush into the gym or go spend hours and hundreds of dollars on workout tapes just to have fun. By all means, go out there, have fun. What I'm talking with Matt here about is getting to that next level, going from the hobbyist to the semi-pro to the pro level. Anybody can do this. Anybody can get involved in motorsport. By all means, absolutely. Don't let this intimidate you or make you think you can't do it. You can, but if you want to get to those upper levels like I do, like Matt does, like a lot of people out there want to do, you've got to take that extra step. You've got to think about fitness, diet, health. Matt here was talking to him via email a few weeks ago. We started talking about other podcasts for me to listen to, and one of the names he brought up was Peter Voog. Peter Voog says over and over again on his podcasts, nothing tastes as good as health feels. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not a slouch in the kitchen. I love to cook. I love making delicious food. I don't have a ton of time to do it. What me and my wife have been doing, we've been eating healthier at home, and we don't have time. Both of us are very busy professional people. We both have jobs that take us out of the home for 9, 10, 12 hours a day. Every Sunday, I have 2 crock pots. I look up some very basic recipes, and I use organic ingredients. I throw all the ingredients in the crock pot and let them sit there for 4 hours while I'm editing the podcast, while I'm putting things together, while I'm doing an interview. 4 hours later, I've got a week's worth of food for lunch and dinner for me and my wife, ready to go. And I hate to blow my own horn here, but it's delicious and it's extremely healthy. Low salt, very flavorful, very, very easy to do. Even if you don't know how to cook, you can throw stuff in a crock pot, set it at low, and walk away.
Absolutely, man. Like, this stuff is not complicated. If you can't invest 25 minutes a day in fitness in your own living room, and if you can't take a bunch of stuff out of the fridge and throw it in the crock pot, man, you got to try a little bit harder, but it's really not that hard, man. You can get there. I'm so glad you brought up Peter Voog, man, because I was just thinking about a quote that I wanted to share from him, a different one. He always says that if you're always one decision away from the right decision, all right? So if you've been struggling with this for a while, put it behind you, man, and move on. You can do this.
110% back you up on that one. By the way, thank you for introducing me to his show. It's been a lifeline. It has really helped me step things up here with the show and everything else. And I've got a lot of big stuff coming in the very near future. Kind of back to racing here. We are on a motorsports and racing podcast. I got a little sidetracked there, but yeah, you were talking about driving that shifter cart. I myself haven't driven a shifter cart. I've driven what's called a tag, which is short for touch and go cart. So it's got an electronic start on it, little push button start, but it's the same engine that a shifter cart has. So it's a 125cc 2-stroke, similar to what you'll find in the older dirt bikes back in the day, about 25 to 30 horsepower. The only difference between a shifter cart and a tag cart is the tag cart has a snowmobile transmission on it. So it's more like your traditional go-kart where you don't have to worry about shifting gears. It's what they use in cars nowadays called the CVT transmission. So it's got a belt and it basically constantly adjusts your gear ratios. So all you have to do is hit the throttle and it's going to go. And I ran with sticky tires. I had bruises up and down the sides of my rib cage from the G-forces. There were corners on that track where doesn't matter how hard I tried, I looked like I had some sort of problem with my neck where it was just, even with the donut around my head was resting, my helmet was resting on my shoulder going through those corners. It is unbelievably ridiculous, and you said it yourself. If you haven't experienced 3Gs, it's hard to explain what that's like. It's very hard to explain that feeling unless you feel it yourself. Even 2Gs, your standard street car, even on race tires, is going to get maybe 1.2 Gs, and that's going to feel like a lot. Trust me on that. When you start talking about 2 and 3 Gs, it's going to throw you for a loop, and you're not going to know what you're going to do, what you're doing.
Yeah, now we're talking about next level stuff. I'm telling you what, man, like I said before, I'm very fit. That shifter cart was a blast, man. And even the tag carts, like you were saying, man, those things have some serious grip around the corners, man. But that shifter cart, we ran the full Daytona circuit at F1 Boston, F1 Outdoors, sorry. And there was one corner in the track. It was very banked, and it was all I could do to keep my head up and lift my eyes to look at the exit of the corner. It's just, and it's so hard to describe. Like, right, I felt like I was just shy of passing out, and it felt like I was just 40 feet underwater with the pressure. It was absolutely a remarkable experience, man. If you ever get the chance, you've got to do it.
And the crazy thing is, too, is we're talking about this, and I'm a huge F1 fan. I watch every race. I watch qualifying. I watch practice sessions. I watch it all. It really intrigues me, not just from the driver's standpoint, but the engineering side of it, the technical side of it. I'm a total geek when it comes to that stuff, and I absolutely love it. I'm the guy that will DVR the race and pause it when there's a good HD shot of the back of the car so I can look at the undercarriage and I can see how the diffuser's shaped. I look at that stuff. I see how the wing angle when they're in a corner as opposed to when the drag reduction system, which is a little opening in the wing that pops open when they're on the straightaway. I want to look at the angles of that to see what's going on between the different cars. It totally intrigues me. And those guys are doing fighter jet G-forces, 5 to 6, 7 Gs of braking. It's unreal. They actually have to learn breathing techniques so they don't black out mid-corner. And that just blows my mind.
How insane is that? That's absolutely ridiculous. I cannot even imagine what that's like. And that is the most impressive thing about automotive and racing engineering today is how fast the cars stop. They're really fast in a straight line, accelerating, but oh my gosh, did they slow down like crazy.
Yeah, when you're talking about speeds like that, you really do have to stop in a hurry. And the crazy thing is too, we're talking about Formula One here, they're braking. The way they hit the brakes on those cars is 180 degrees different from what you would do in your street car because of the wings and the undercarriage and the diffusers and the downforce. They have so much friction on the tires. Instead of easing into the brakes like you would in a regular street car or autocrossing or a track day, they mash that brake pedal as hard as they can, and then they ease off. It's the complete opposite of what you would do in your standard street car or race car. That blows my mind, that there's so much G-forces from the wings and everything else and so much downforce on the car that you could sit there and stand up on the brake pedal and you're not going to lock up the tires.
That's fascinating, man. So I think basically what I heard you say was as you start to brake, and your car is slowing down, you have less downforce because of the aero, and then you can lock up a tire the slower you go. That is brilliant. I've never thought about that. Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah, watch the F1 cars when they do the slow-mo replays as they're coming around a corner, and you'll usually see it'll be the left front driver's side in a regular car front tire will lock up for just a fraction of a second, a little puff of smoke, and you'll see that they're easing off the brake just enough to unlock that tire and keep going, but you'll never see them lock it up on those long straightaways coming into a hard corner. You'll never see them lock up until they're already initiated the turn and well into the turn. That's when you start to see the lockup.
Man, that is fascinating. See, those are all the little things you've got to understand and be cognizant of if you want to be fast in a race car. I love all those little technical things.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And like I said, the engineering, the technical side of it, I've read books on technical layout from each team, each car, from each race, steering wheel design for each car. That's it reads like a textbook, and it would be boring to your average Joe or Jane who might pick it up. They'd look at it and they look at the pictures and they'd be done with it. I sit there and read those books cover to cover because, okay, why is there a multifunction switch with eight different settings on the Mercedes car, but you look at the Ferrari car and they've got 2 and both of them have 6. What's going on? What's the difference? Why is it like that? And why did Ferrari change their winged profile between Monte Carlo and Spa? Why is there a different, that stuff intrigues me and it drives me. I love reading about it. I love learning about it. And in the long run, that's actually going to help me when I'm designing my car now, what I'm thinking about doing with my car. And I actually posted something on Facebook and Twitter earlier today. The magazine Grassroots Motorsports is doing a challenge they do every year. This year is the $2,016 challenge that they're running. They've been doing it for many years now, but basically what it comes down to is you have to buy, build, design a car for the amount of dollars you have to spend on your budget is equal to whatever year it is. And they do an autocross, a drag race, and a car show. Some people go out there and just have fun. They want to build a car, some ridiculous drag car. I saw one year somebody had taken an old E30 chassis BMW and threw a 500 cubic inch Cadillac V8 in it with an automatic transmission, and they put the biggest used slicks they could find, but they built the car for something like $2,003 start to finish, bought the car and everything. Low budget, easy way to get in racing, easy way to get your start, get a feel for things. You're not only autocrossing, you're drag racing, so you get a feel of everything. Plus, you get to have some fun putting together some crazy team. You have to put a theme together for it. You have to go to a car show. It's so much fun, and it's something I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do here in the next few years. Just put something together, get a team together, and put some dirt cheap junkyard car I can find together and go down to Florida and do it.
That's absolutely brilliant. I love that it kind of forces the creativity aspect in the racing world, which has kind of been lost over the years, I'm afraid. But man, that sounds like a really cool challenge. That would be a blast.
Oh, and some of the cars you'll see, and the magazine Grassroots Motorsports does throughout the year, they'll do like a little write-up on different cars and submissions they've had over the years. And I remember one that really caught my attention. Somebody took an old beat up like C4 Corvette, so like the 80s, Tuneport 350 Corvette, and they wanted to, because there are no real rules to the car other than this is your budget, this is what you have to spend, and you have to provide receipts for everything. You can do anything you want. So they took the idea of the old Can-Am sucker car that came out in the 60s, where somebody had taken snowmobile motors and put a fan underneath the car and a skirt around it, sort of an opposite hovercraft. It sucked the car down to the ground, and it pulled all that wind resistance and all that air out from underneath the car to help with downforce and cornering. Somebody did that with like weed whackers or like leaf blowers. They took a couple like leaf blower motors and put them in the passenger seat where it was, and put like a rubber skirt around this Corvette and made a sucker car out of it to run the autocross.
I've never heard of anything like that. That's absolutely brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, they've got awards for, like, because it's cheap car racing. Of course, somebody's gonna blow up on the way, so they've got awards for whoever has the most dramatic destruction of the vehicle. They've got, of course, the overall winner who wins the most points in the autocross, the drag race, and the car show. But they've got the engineering awards, so whoever comes up with the most wicked engineering idea and is able to put it together themselves in their garage, that's another award. They've got awards for people who put together a car 10 days or less before the event starts and does the best out of all those cars. It's absolutely, I mean, they call it Grassroots Motorsports for a reason, and that's what I absolutely love about this. And it just goes to show you can do it. You don't need $1 million in a bank account. You can go out and you can have fun and you can do it. And here's one more way you can do it and have an absolute blast.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Like, a lot of people, they think that there's just no way they can get started. But I mean, the stories you just told, that's how people do it, man. If you want to launch your career, if you want to put something in your life, you'll make it happen. I mean, if you're intent on having something, you will find a way.
So you started to do a little karting. Are you planning on going and giving that a try over the next year or two?
Well, I can't talk about it too much, but I am currently in discussion with a very prominent New Hampshire-based kart racing team. I think they're at Supernats right now.
Oh wow!
And they have very high-profile drivers. I think Colin Daly is driving for them right now. He's one of the Red Bull kart fighters. Okay. I'm hoping to work a deal with them where I will be able to be in one of their karts for next season. But we'll see how that turns out. It's nothing is for sure at this point. But I would love to do that. That sounds like a blast.
Oh yeah, and trust me, there's going to be a future episode all about karting. Probably multiple episodes, like I did with Autocross here, because it is another easy, low-budget way of getting involved and getting started, and it's a great way to learn wheel-to-wheel racing.
Absolutely, man. If I get into that, I'd love to come back and talk about it on your show with you.
Oh, I'd love to have you back, man. I'd love to have you back.
Awesome.
You got any other plans for the future for motorsports outside of autocross and karting?
Man, I'll tell you what, I have so much going on as it is right now. I have no idea what's going to happen. If I have my way, we'll be racing probably T4 at the regional club level for a year or so at some point. And I really do want, especially after hearing Rich Walkie talk about it, I really, really want to make a run at the SCCA Major Series and maybe even the runoffs. That's really my goal right now.
Oh, yeah. I haven't been able to go to the runoffs with him yet. Next year, I am actually going to be setting aside some vacation time. Don't tell my wife yet, but I am going to Indianapolis with him next year. That's the plan, and I want to continue working with him, and hopefully I may be able to step in when he's ready to step down, depending on my financial situation and if I can afford to kind of jump in there. We'll see. Time will tell, but that's my plan, is to go into the majors and hopefully one day maybe Pirelli World Challenge myself. So
Yeah, well, it's not that far of a leap from the SCCA runoffs to the World Challenge, man. I mean, T4 is basically the same as TC, I think, TCA,
Okay.
with very slight rule modifications. So that's kind of why I'm going into T4 because it's very similar to the TCA category in Pro World Challenge.
Yeah, I just started blogging not that long ago. I've only got a couple up blogs up so far, but last weekend I was down here working on the computer, and I also had the SCCA runoffs on my computer while I was doing some editing and stuff. I didn't get to catch much, but there was one class that caught my attention, and it's something I've kind of been watching on and off. Doesn't get the notoriety it really should, and it's B-Spec Racing. It's only been out for a few years. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
Yeah, I
but
love the B-Speckers, man. I love them.
I actually wrote a blog basically explaining that you can take your little college daily driver Honda Fit when you're done with college. You take the interior out, you throw a cage and a racing seat and a harness in it. Now you're ready to autocross. Now you're ready. You can also take that to SCCA events. You can do track days. They have a B spec in the SCCA majors, and with very, very minimal changes. And I'm pretty sure I can't say for certain, but I think it's only the tires, the spec tires between the SCCA and Pirelli World Challenge is the only difference between the two classes between the SCCA and Pirelli World Challenge. They run B spec as well. So you can literally take learn how to drive in a car, take it, few modifications over the years, learn how to performance drive, actually performance drive, go semi-pro and into the pro ranks all with one car.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. And I think actually, you're allowed to you have to change the tires, and I think also camber plates as well between the two
Okay.
series. But
Yeah.
but yeah, B-Spec is amazing, man. I think B-Spec is the most underrated racing division here in the country because it's that same philosophy that we were talking about earlier, man. You drive that slow car as long as you can, and that's where all the talent is. If someone can win in B-Spec, man, they are a really talented driver because the cars are so evenly matched and underpowered. It's momentum, man. If you lose your momentum, you're done. What a great racing series.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the race for the runoffs, but it was a lot of action. Not so much from the front. The guy who won it, he just walked away from everybody. But the second place back, there was a ton of fights, a ton of battles, a lot of back and forth. One guy ended up on his side. It was
Oh, wow.
just, it was a lot of fun to watch, a lot of good racing, and a lot of talent right there in B-Spec. And I've seen it myself working with Rich and going up to Road America or the Blackhawk Farms, which is another local track to me. And that's one of the few races I actually get to sit down and watch when we're at the track. I spend a lot of time working on the car, but it's not the entire weekend. I do get a chance to walk away and watch some of the racing, and that is one of the ones I do love sitting down and watching is that B-Spec race because it's so close, so tight, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, are those and I've been waiting for it. Are those on demand on SCCA.com yet? The this year's runoffs?
I haven't looked yet. I need to because I really wanted to watch the STL race. I missed it because I had to work that day.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna pull it up right now. I'm gonna
oh,
check right
awesome.
now. Also, I didn't know that you were doing a blog. That's pretty cool, man. I'm gonna have to check that
Yeah,
out. That's really wild.
I just started. I've only got two blogs up on Opposite Lock through Kinja.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Yeah. No, I'm absolutely gonna check that out, man. That sounds awesome.
Oh, awesome! Thank you. I'm also finally got I ordered a GoPro, so there's going to be some more video stuff coming along. I've got a YouTube page coming up, and I'm going to be transferring all the podcasts onto YouTube as well because I do know people. The only way they can access podcasts is YouTube, and I want to reach out to them and give them the opportunity to listen as well.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's one thing I love doing with my stuff is I try to make it appear in as many places as possible. By the way, the runoffs are not on demand yet, so we're still waiting for SCCA.com.
I'm going to have to give Rich a call and see if he can talk to somebody. He's been doing it for 41 years. I suppose he might know a person or two.
Yeah.
What can we look for in the future on racershq.com?
Man, I'll tell you what, right now, it's all about the magazine. I am so excited to have the pro racing drivers come in and share their insight. The motorsports pros are going to come in and share their insight. We're going to be doing this really cool hashtag Ask Matt Covert thing. So you'll be able to be really involved in what's going on in the magazine. All kinds of really fun stuff, man. But before I forget, I wanted to make sure that your listeners knew there is a really awesome free ebook on my website so that people know what that is, and they can get it for totally free. It's a really cool book. One thing that I have a lot of people complaining about and talking about on my website is they just don't get enough seat time. So they're on the website, they're going through theory, they're learning all these new things, but at an autocross race, there's just not enough time to take what you're learning and implement it into your racing program in a full competition setting. Okay, and this is something I've been doing for years. I've had a ton of, well, I shouldn't say a ton. I've had 5 or 6 different private practice spaces where I can go and spend the day kind of learning new things and making demo videos or whatever. So this ebook is all about how to work deals with business owners so that you can use their commercial private parking lots for motorsport practice. And it's totally free to get. You can go get it right now, racershq.com/more seat time. I hope you go and get that. It's really valuable.
I have read the book. I haven't reached out yet. My car at the moment is not drivable, so there really isn't a whole lot of use having a practice space and working something out just yet. The car will be drivable here in a couple weeks, and I'm hoping to get some seat time in before it starts getting too cold here, seeing how it's an open-top car. But that is my plan, and I am going to be following his book, getting my own practice space, not only for my own self for seat time and to get better with certain techniques, but I'm also going to try and use that as well for the podcast, for my YouTube channel, so I can bring more things to you guys. I have a closed environment, a safe place where if I do push a car too hard, I'm not going to get in trouble, I'm not going to hurt anybody, and I'm not going to break anything.
Yeah, exactly, man. And like that's one thing that has crossed over into racing for me from the stunt world is nobody cares how talented you are if you're not safe. You got to make sure everyone is safe. No property damage, certainly no personal injury, man. That's the number one priority.
Absolutely. I've said it before and I'll say it again. When it comes to safety, you can't skimp on that. You have to spend the money. Myself, I am going above and beyond the minimum requirements for safety gear with my car. I need a very basic roll cage to run my car and chump in lemons. I'm actually going above and beyond that. I'm going to have what's called NASCAR bars on the driver's side to protect me if I get T-boned. I have my fire suit and fireproof underwear. I have the triple layer fire suit. I don't need the fireproof Nomex underwear. Guess what? I'm wearing it anyway. I've got the gloves. I'm going to be practicing in my garage or in my driveway. I'm sure people are going to give me some weird looks. Egress, getting out of the car in an emergency situation, making sure I can get out of that car with the cage, with the net, with the harness, with all my gear on as fast as possible and as safe as possible in case everything goes wrong. Because if it does go wrong, I want to be ready. I want to be prepared. I don't want people to say he died doing what he loved. I want people to see, holy cow, he made it out of that. How did he get out of there alive?
Yeah, and I think actually to race in the Pirelli World Challenge, you have to be able to totally egress your car from a racing position in 9 seconds.
And that makes total sense. I mean, you go back to military training for myself. We did a lot of training with our biological chemical warfare stuff where we had this full suit and a gas mask and our helmet and our flak vest. And we needed to put that whole get up on while holding our breath in well under a minute. And you need just to get your gas mask on, you need to be able to do that in under 10 seconds. Because when it comes down to it, and the more practice you do, the better you're going to get at it, the faster you're going to be, the more natural it comes. And that comes along with having, going back to what we're saying about having a practice space and that seat time. The more you do something, even when it's the basics and working on a specific technique, whether it be controlling liftoff oversteer in a front wheel drive car, working on figuring out the traction circle or the limits of your car. The more you do it, the more seat time you have. If you have a practice space, the more ability you have to learn that and make it become second nature and pure muscle memory. You don't even have to think about it at one point. You're just going to do it. And that's really what his book is all about, is getting that practice space and how you can do it. And it is completely 100% doable. I've read it and I back it 100%, and I'm going to be doing it myself.
I'm really glad to hear that, man. It's such a valuable thing to have. That's where I learned a lot of my performance driving talent, was at my own private practice space, man. So put that in your back pocket for when the car's running.
Absolutely. I'm going to be doing it here as soon as possible. So, where can people find you exactly?
Yeah, I'm in a few different places. You can certainly go to the website, racershq.com. There's a contact section on there. I'm on Instagram, at CatchMattCovert. A lot of unique content goes on there as well. I love connecting and meeting new people. I'm always saying that. So if you've got something going on, you've got questions about something, please reach out to me. I love this stuff so much. I can't get enough of it. I want to talk to you about what you've got going on. I'm sure I can help you with something. So reach out to me. I'm also on Facebook at facebook.com/racershq.
Awesome, dude. Again, I can't thank you enough. This guy, he's great. He's always willing to talk cars with somebody. Like I said before in past episodes, this is my way of venting and talking cars with people. And if I can help someone along the way, even better. That's really what this is all about. So if you have any questions and I can't answer them, if you think Matt can, by all means, reach out to Matt. Check out the website. Read up. Check out his videos. I think I remember you saying you've got your stunt car teaser videos up somewhere too.
Yeah, those are somewhere. Oh my gosh, where are those? I don't know off the top of my head. Actually, you know what? I do know where they are. You can actually go to mattcovert.com. It's kind of a little separate resume website. If you want to check out some of the demos I've done on there, or my my performance driving resume, go right there. I think they're up on the website still.
That's awesome. I'm gonna check them out, and I will be posting some links here on iTunes and Libsyn and on all my social media for you. He was talking about that worksheet he uses for his diet. I'm definitely going to be posting that and sharing that with everybody. Again, Matt, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I'll be saying goodbye to you here after we get off the air. So for my listeners, I'm going to cut out for a second. I'm going to say goodbye to Matt, and I will be right back to say goodbye. So there you go, everybody. That's Matt Covert from racershq.com. Again, if you get the chance, get over to his website, take a look, subscribe to his podcast. He's got a lot of wonderful information for anyone starting out in racing or anyone who's been around for a little bit and maybe needs a refresher course or wants to learn a little bit more of the technical side of things. You can find me on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also find me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/rags2races. Twitter, I'm on at rags2races. Instagram, rags2races. And I'm blogging on Opposite Lock. Do a search for Rags2Races. The YouTube channel is coming very soon, and I will let you know on social media exactly when that comes out. Again, special thanks to Matt for coming on the show again. It was a pleasure talking to him, and I'm looking forward to working with him again in the future. For the rest of you, this is Jake again, signing off. Keep the shiny side up, the greasy side down, and remember, there are no strangers in motorsport, only friends you haven't met. Thanks.